Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Indy Scene. I'm your host, Jerry Garcia, and this week we have another phenomenal guest, or should I say another simply ravishing guest. Our guest this week is none other than Shawn Donavan. Simply ravishing, the genuine article, or just Shawn Donavan, whatever you'd like to call him. As you can see, I'm wearing his new Dipsy shirt, which you can get from him. You contact him on Twitter or Instagram at ShawnDonavan01. Shawn Donavan is one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show, this podcast. He's just one of those guys that you can tell love the business. Everything he posts, everything he talks about is somehow geared towards the business, and you can see that he has real hunger and real love for the sport. As I talk to him more, you can hear it come out. That's not just he enjoys watching as a fan. He doesn't just love the athletic part of it. He loves everything about the sport. He's one guy that I think could help any and every company that he goes to, whether it's in the locker room or just in the ring. And as you can hear from our conversation, when he finally hangs up those boots, this is something he'll be going into. Whether it's promoting, whether it's coaching, training, he's going to be around wrestling for a long time, and I think he's an asset to the sport. Simply Ravishing or just Shawn Donavan or?
You can just call me Shawn Donavan. I've actually weaned off that character. I mean, that was something I had for so many years, and when I got back together with my trainer, he just wanted me to keep using that name. But slowly, I mean, you just saw that it wasn't me anymore. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I'm just me now. I created something called the Genuine Article that I'm still just kind of working through, but really just going by just Shawn Donavan. I mean, that's what everybody knows me as. So.
And what's the Genuine Article?
So really, it's just me. It's after 15 years of traveling around and doing all these things that it's, and being through different situations, personal, professionally, and wrestling and in business. It's just something I came up with. It's what you see is what you get nowadays. I'm not afraid to speak my mind, and I'll do it professionally, but I'm not afraid to speak my mind and say what's on my mind or how I'm feeling. And a lot of it just kind of translates into my work and my promos nowadays. It's just very real.
You're working on kind of defining the character still, mm-hmm. Like
it's not necessarily defining. It's just it's really just it's fine tuning everything.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of really just finding a specific niche with it. Right now it's in development where it needs to be developed further. But it's just me. It's now 16 years worth of hard work and having doors slammed in your face and going through a lot of personal issues and taking time away from wrestling and then finding my way back into it again. And wrestling has changed nowadays. When I first started, it was show up to a show with your bag and introduce yourself, and maybe there's a spot. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, everything with social media, it's message a promoter or message a promotion on social media in the hopes that they respond. Or it's all about who you know now, because the independents are so saturated now, and you see clumps and cliques and groups of wrestlers performing on the same exact show. So it's much harder to get into different organizations. Anybody with $100 can, spend a couple of dollars, rent a ring, and call themselves a promotion.
Yeah.
But then when wrestlers are trying to make it, and you can't offer them peanuts. It's one thing when you're breaking into the business. Obviously, you're willing to work anywhere because you're trying to build a brand and you're trying to build a name. Mm-hmm. So the money is not necessarily important, and it never really should be to a degree when you're coming up. I mean, we're all not stars, in the big leagues making money, but you got to take care of performers that are traveling. You can't ask someone to travel 7-8 hours mm-hmm. and get paid, $10. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, and it's different for me at this point. I've been doing this for a very long time, and again, I'm not asking for the end of the world. Just, give me the courtesy and the respect if you've seen my work. Give me the courtesy and respect, and let's negotiate something that is beneficial on both sides.
Yeah, I mean that's what they teach you in film too. Is if you have a crew, the bare minimum you can do is feed them, and really the big trick also is have cigarettes. Because the guys that work on crews, they'll just be outside smoking all day.
Yeah.
But to me, if I have you come out and we're gonna do a film project, I'm gonna have you out there for 6 to 8 hours. At least want to pay your travel.
Yeah.
Something
Exactly.
just to let you know I do appreciate you, because
Yeah.
you can tell them, but sometimes it doesn't go as far as, let me say I'll cover that for you.
See, the problem with wrestling nowadays is that, when I started in 2001, a lot of the promoters were guys that had been involved in the wrestling business for many, many years and had a handle on what the business model was like. Nowadays, the wrestling has boomed again, and what I've seen, at least on a Northeast level, is there are a lot of people with, they get a few connections, and all of a sudden, oh, I'm a wrestling promoter now. Unless you have a complete understanding of how the business works, you shouldn't be getting yourself into it. And if you are, you want to wean yourself in slowly and just try to get an understanding of how it works. But that's the problem that happens with a lot of independent shows nowadays. It's just guys booking a boatload of talent, and they're just booking matches that they as fans want to see.
Okay.
But they're not realizing that there's a certain way to put an event together. There's a certain way you have to promote the event in order to draw fans in. You have to have the right quality talent, and don't just book somebody just because, oh, well, he'll fit my budget and he's only $20.
Yeah.
A lot of times in wrestling, you get what you pay for. There's also things called match structure and where to put specific matches that will have an ebb and flow to your show. You can't have 8 main event type matches on a show.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the actual main event, where is that? So, a lot of times you just have fans that become promoters and they have no idea what they're doing. On the other end, you do have some fans that want to get into the wrestling, industry, and they may go train out of school and they may realize that, hey, the in-ring side is not for me. And they might wean off and become a referee or do different things, or they say, I want to be on the production side, or I want to be on the creative side. And they spend some time with those individuals that run those schools or promotions that have done this work before, and they learn and they teach them. The easiest thing that comes to mind is, Gabe Sapolsky, who runs Evolve Wrestling. He learned under Paul Heyman.
Yeah.
And you see how successful he's become.
He's been everywhere.
There's not a lot of Gabe Sapolskys around,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, but I'm not saying that as a whole, but there are a lot of great promotions that are out there. But a majority of the ones that have been popping up in the most recent year or two are not finding the right success because they just don't understand how the formula works. There's so many different intangibles. It would be the same thing for me that, if I decided to pick up and go become a general manager at Wendy's tomorrow, I would have no idea how it works because I haven't been raised through the process to understand how it works and how to make it successful.
Yeah. You just know you like burgers and fries.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is. All I know is, oh, you like burgers and fries and baked potatoes? Cool. Here you go.
We have some of that somewhere.
Yeah, but there's a formula of when the burger's got to get cooked, and
exactly.
What you got to prep for the day. So like any job, the wrestling industry is a job. It's a business, and at the end of the day, while performers and referees and these, we're all having fun being involved in it because it's a passion. It's still a business, and you're still in it to make money. So even as a performer, so
now. Well, you actually touched on a whole lot of things that I want to circle back to, but
Sure,
which is
sorry.
great. No, by all means. So one thing you mentioned is recent companies popping up, and one that comes to mind that I know you recently performed for is WrestlePro. And I've heard Pat Buck talk multiple times, and I've seen a few of his shows where he seems to be someone that really understands how to build a show properly. Like, he has connections, obviously, to bring in a Cody Rhodes, maybe reach out and bring Brian Myers when he's not signed to WWE back, but can you speak to that, because I know you recently performed, I think, in Brooklyn, correct, with him? Or was it Starland?
both events this past weekend.
Okay. Can you speak to maybe the way that he runs his cards, like the way he sets up his match structures?
Yeah, I mean, I've been around WrestlePro for a little while now, and it's a great promotion. But you know, Pat through and through is a performer,
Hmm.
and he came up directly through the OVW system, so he learned every inch of the business, from guys like Rip Rogers and Dr. Tom Pritchard, who's a mentor of mine. He's been around wrestling as long as I have, and spent a lot of time in those developmental areas, growing and learning, not just in the ring. He has grown to learn what needs to be done outside the ring to make a business successful. I mean, I don't know all the intricacies of how many guys Pat has learned under,
Hmm.
but he's brought all of those styles from successful guys that have made it in wrestling's past and even in the present, and he has grown a very successful promotion that I don't think has even scratched the surface yet of how big it can grow. There's a lot of things in the works, and he is working overtime himself to really grow his brand, and I couldn't have any more respect for him than I already do. And he's given me an opportunity to grow as a performer again, in terms of branching out and really rebuilding myself of who I am. He's given me that opportunity, and all of the other members that are involved on the WrestlePro side, to give me an opportunity, and give my partner Michael Blake an opportunity too, to really reinvent ourselves and really reinvigorate our love for why we do this. So he's someone that understands it on a business and on a performer level, and I think you have to have that relation. So he's done it, and he continues to keep growing it. I mean, the houses keep getting bigger and bigger, with all of the guys that he's working with to grow it.
Yeah, I know that you guys recently had, I think, was Brooklyn a sellout too, or was it just Starland?
Oh no, we sold out both those buildings.
Okay.
Standing room only in Brooklyn as well. So
Yeah, they look like they're great events. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it out to either. So you spoke about a lot of the guys popping up on the East Coast. Do you feel that it's kind of surprising that WrestlePro is able to grow? Because I feel like in most independent industries in the East Coast, it's more cutthroat than you'll see in any other area.
yeah, the East Coast has always been very cutthroat. I mean, even from when I started, you had promotions, running all the time. The East Coast is very different. I mean, on any given weekend, you could be booked on a show in, just throw a name out, Boonton, New Jersey. It could get canceled. You can easily get booked on another show 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
At any given time, there's 4 or 5 shows running in the Northeast area, whether it's in New Jersey or Connecticut or Brooklyn. But I think a lot of it is a testament because there are so many schools in the Northeast. So, and there have been a lot of good trainers over the years that have held their schools in the Northeast New Jersey area. So a lot of great talent has popped up. So because of that, the East Coast is very big, and there's a lot more events going on. Guys are going to want to get booked more on the Northeast, because a lot of them can also double shot.
Yeah.
On a Friday or Saturday, they could be the opening match on a show in Brooklyn, and they could be just after intermission, in Woodbridge, New Jersey.
On the same night.
Yeah, on the same night. Yeah.
How many times have you done that?
Well over 100 times probably.
How does it feel going from the one they have to get in the car and drive to the other? And because I've seen a lot of stuff, you take a decent amount of bumps in a match to be fair.
Yeah, I've definitely slowed down though in the
Yeah.
last number of years, and I know we all as performers, there is such a thing called a bump card. It will catch up to you, but I've learned over the years more to work smarter, not harder. Sometimes that's not always the case. You get into a rhythm and a flow in a match, and you just hear the fans, and it's just, you want to give them everything.
Yeah.
Not to say that you always have to take bumps, because if you are gonna take a bump, it should mean something.
Yeah, I mean, which is commendable that like, even though you're beat, you're like, all right, I'll still take it because the crowd's into it and it's feeding into you.
Absolutely, and you want to give them an overall event. You don't want to go in and just half-ass it just because you had a match 30 minutes prior. at the end of the day, you're being paid to do a service, and that's perform on an event, and you owe it to those fans who paid to come see an event. You want to give them their money's worth.
Yeah.
But you want to give them the whole package. You want to give them character, personality, intensity. Emotion is what we do and bring out. So, but yeah, that's the name of the game. Double shot has been done by countless others. I haven't done it as much, but whenever the opportunity would arise, I'd gladly do it, and I have fun doing it. So
hard work pays off, I'm sure.
that it does.
Now, you mentioned your bump card.
Mm-hmm.
You've been tagging recently with your partner. Do you feel like maybe that's kind of why you've been leaning toward tags, or is something you just were interested in getting into at this time?
No, I'm still focusing on the singles aspect of wrestling, but the opportunity came up with my on and off longtime tag partner Michael Blake. There was an opportunity for him to come into WrestlePro, and we just started working some tags together, and we just said, hey, let's give it one more shot. And the first time, I think we were training, we hadn't teamed probably in 10 years, and the chemistry was still there.
Yeah.
The love for what we do is still there, and I know what he and I can produce in tag team quality. Tag team matches are very unique. There's a specific way to really put together a tag match, and if you have 4 guys that understand how to put something like that together, it's magic. And he and I, we get that. We feed off each other with ideas. We'll put something together, and he'll come in, and what if we move this here and do this here, and he's got a great mind for wrestling, and he took some time off, and I think he's found his way back and still realizes how much he loves it. And I think we're both at a point in our lives where we want to have fun again, and I know what he and I from an experience level can bring to the table in tag team wrestling, and just our experience in general, to really be able to work with guys that are new, but also be able to get in there with guys our same experience level and just go balls to the wall and really just put on something really, really fun and emotional for fans and take them on a roller coaster.
Is there a team you have like chemistry with that you believe is just undeniable? Like you guys can do a whole tour just with this team?
I can't pinpoint one name because he and I have only been teaming back again for the better part of the last 7 months. So I don't want to say there's one name, but I'm very confident that he and I can go in there with any tag team, and we can create magic. Whether it's guys like the Heavenly Bodies, or you have some New York staple tag teams like Private Party or EYFBO. I know we can have great matches with them. I know we can bring intensity if we were to wrestle guys like the Hit Squad. I think that you bring out any tag team and we'll be able to match them.
I'm sure you can bring intensity. I saw clips of your bull rope match back in the day, a few years back to be nice, right?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, it's about there a little bit.
Now, there's lots of people who, as they've watched wrestling over the years, there was that gap where like wrestling just, well, specifically WWE just kind of made people look at it like, I don't want to watch it anymore. Obviously, you're a fan of the business. Did you run through that time period too? You all the way through? All
the way through. I can't get enough of it. I will study a lot of the same matches that I studied coming up in wrestling, 15 years ago. I will still study them to this day. I mean, there has not been a day in the last 30 years. I'm dating myself even to the age, even more than that I haven't not craved watching wrestling on a day in and day out process. I mean, there'll be days where I might just only watch 1 or 2 matches because sometimes you need a break.
Yeah.
But I'm consistently studying, watching, this sport. Even now with the advent of social media, I'm studying, the independents. I'm studying who's out there, who's making a name for themselves, why are they making a name for themselves, how are they making a name for themselves. I'm studying every little aspect there is of wrestling, on the outside, from a business standpoint to the in-ring product. And it's something I think about 24/7.
You're very, very astute to the game. Do you want to be a coach one day, maybe, or you just want to give it all you got until you can't give anymore?
I would love to do that. I've always, I enjoy helping and I enjoy teaching. And by no means do I consider myself knowing everything about wrestling, or do I consider myself, a grizzled veteran or anything like that.
Yeah.
A little bitter. We all are. We're all a little salty. After a certain point, I think after you have a certain amount of time, and you have a right to be a little salty. But I love giving back. Mm-hmm. And I'm always appreciative when anyone tells me that I've helped them in a certain way. Would I absolutely love to be a coach and a trainer one day to train wrestlers? Absolutely. Absolutely. If a given platform was there, I would love to take it. Not to say that I have any means of slowing down in the ring anytime soon, but I love giving back because the wrestling business gave me the opportunity. People gave me the opportunity to be in this business, and I got the opportunity to learn and really grow from a lot of guys that aren't around anymore. And I have a lot of that knowledge that I can give back, because I feel fortunate that I was trained the right way. A lot of wrestlers that get into wrestling aren't trained the right way because, they may train at a school that starts and then a month later the school just goes out of business. Or you hear the horror stories of the actual trainer who's just sitting in his office while there's a bunch of guys that are 2-3 months in are just training guys. But
the next round of guys that come in.
Yeah. So I mean, for me, again, if the platform and the opportunity was there, I would love to help train. I love talking and giving back and helping people succeed. And even if they take one thing that I teach them and they apply it and they do well with it, and that makes me happy. For me, there's no monetary value that you can pay me that if I can give somebody advice and they can go out and apply it and they can tear the roof off the building. Like that's the if you want to call it the monetary value that I get, that's what I love seeing. The enjoyment of the fans react, and that performer gets better.
Now, your eyes lit up when you said that. Is there a moment that comes to your memory where you're like, I remember talking to that guy about if he just tweaks this a little bit, he'll get that reaction?
Not necessarily. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are really coming up now that I think really have an opportunity to really go places in wrestling. And I've seen them take some of my advice. I can't pinpoint one piece, but I see them taking, bits and pieces of my advice and others, and I see them with every match. They get better and better and better, whether it's from a psychological perspective or if it's from a character development standpoint. I love seeing the next group of the independent world of wrestling grow to where I hope some of these guys get opportunities to shine on a bigger platform.
Now, from the pictures, I would assume you were trained at IWF with Kevin Knight, but is that where you were trained?
Yeah, that was my initial stomping grounds. I started in 2001 when the IWF had their original school in West Patterson, New Jersey. It's now renamed Woodland Park. Try to make it fancy, I guess, but
I think to avoid the Patterson name is probably what they want to do.
Yeah, it was, and it's a great school. It's a school that's still standing today. They've changed venues. They're now in Nutley, New Jersey. But yeah, I was trained initially, by Kevin Knight, and a lot of the independent staples that drew me, to wanting to be a wrestler. When I got the opportunity to start going to independent shows, guys like Kevin Knight and Biggie Biggs and a lot of other, late 90s, early 2000s staples were still around. So, I was at an independent show one day and, Kevin was there and I had heard that the school was opening. So I just inquired and really never thought too much of it. And then they had like a 2-day training or 1-day training camp, I think it was. And the person who performed the best got, a free scholarship to the school. Didn't win. I think I came in second or third, but, they offered me a decent, rate as a tuition. And, I jumped feet first in and it was, everything I could have wanted. I mean, that first bump I took was like magic. Hurt like hell, but it was magic. But and it was off to the races. It started off like the first month or two. It was 2 days a week, and then they had advanced classes, and I started just sticking around and watching. And then I was asked to participate, and next thing you know, for the next 7 years or so, I was practicing 4 days a week. I was training and then performing on shows, and you're paying your dues. You're going to a show in Maryland one day, and then you're sleeping in your car and meeting up with other guys, and you're driving to Pennsylvania the next day, and you're living your dream, paying your dues, and as opportunities would pop up, through IWF to perform other places, like Chaotic Wrestling out in Massachusetts was a real hotbed back in the day, and they still are. The original ECWA was run by Jim Kettner, who ran the famous Super 8 tournament. Got a couple opportunities to perform there and elsewhere, and a lot of those promotions are still up and running. But yeah, man, that's where I started, Kevin Knight, and it's still my home. I'm out and about rebuilding myself, but that's still my home. Always will be. I have absolutely nothing but respect for Kevin. He's been a trainer and and a performer for I would say at this point well over 20 years, and I owe my opportunity getting into this business to Kevin. I always will appreciate and respect that opportunity.
What made you choose IWF initially when you were looking for a school? Is it just you heard about it and you're like, well, I'm around, so I'll go?
Well, yeah, it was around, and it was close to where I lived, that I could be able to get there in a decent time. I was, at the time, I was going to college and working 2 jobs. So, there was the Monster Factory at the time, but that was so far away that I would not be able to keep my obligations. So when you're learning to be an adult, you have to pick and choose certain things. But don't ever regret the decision that I made to go there. I made a lot of friends there that are still some of my best friends today, and some that I see on a weekly basis, some that have been fortunate enough to really bust their butt and make it to the top level in WWE. And I don't get a chance to talk to them all that much, but we stay in contact. So I'm blessed that I had the opportunity to go there, because I don't know that if I went to another school, if I would have gotten the opportunity to go somewhere else, and would have made the friendships that I have currently still today. So they say in wrestling you can count your real best friends on less than one hand. I'm lucky enough that I can say I have a few more than that. So
there you go.
Yeah.
So be going to school, and I know Kevin's done a lot of, I guess, extra work and helped out the WWE with that. Have you ever gotten a chance to do any of that?
Yeah, did a number of those. I have not in recent years, but back in the early 2000s upwards to like 2007, 8. A lot of us that were at the school were afforded opportunities because of the relationships that Kevin developed, through the developmental system there with those that were in that area. So I had a number of opportunities to do extra work, excuse me, extra work, commercials, pilots, vignettes, had an opportunity to say that I got a chance to work for them and got a paycheck from them. Great times networking and meeting a lot, and I learned on every opportunity I got.
Is that paycheck framed in the house somewhere?
It's not framed, but the pay stubs are still there. They're still there in an envelope, but not framed.
How did it feel going there for the first event that you did?
Beyond nerve-wracking. I mean, you go from working in front of, small crowds coming up, and all of a sudden now you're in a massive arena, and there's all this production, and it's like the fear of the unknown. Mm-hmm. You don't know what's going on, and you just have to, I guess the old phrase is keep your mouth shut and your ears open, and you just be respectful. But it's it's such a big production that it's very intimidating.
Yeah.
But I think the more that you get the opportunity to do it, the easier it becomes. But you're under a microscope. Everyone is being watched, and you never know how somebody's going to take something you say or something you do, or so. But the goal when you go there is to put your name in front of someone's face, and show them what you got when you have an opportunity, in the hopes that someone might say, hey, there might be something here, let me recommend this person to talk to this person, and you never know. For some, it gains that opportunity, and for others, they have to keep plugging away, and you know, I think the game has changed nowadays for extra work as it was, back when I started, because they have this beautiful performance center now. So, but not being, in that capacity at this point right now, I'm not sure what they look at when you are booked as an extra, if they are looking at something.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, I'm sure they just bring up their own guys. It's a little cheaper, and then they're like, we're putting you on the road with us,
Right.
put you in some matches anyway.
But yeah, I mean, I've talked to some. It seems like a lot of it that have done it recently in the last year or so. It still seems to be a lot of the same framework, but definitely some things for change. But for me, I can't 100% speak on it. So.
What was the first match that you had, and what was your first gimmick? Or your first character, I should say, not your necessarily gimmick.
The first match I ever had was just, hey man, it's your first match, so just go out there and just be you, which is just, plain vanilla baby face, just going out there.
With the little spiky hair.
Yeah, little spiky hair. My boots hadn't arrived yet, so I ended up wearing kick pads, which, I joke around a lot about that. I'm not a big fan of them, but I understand why guys wear them. But yeah, that was me. My first match was against a gentleman by the name of Eddie Moore, who most guys would recognize today on the circuit as Eddie Kingston, now in TNA. Awesome to see. Guy like him get an opportunity. But yeah, that was my first match, and I really, for a while it was just me, really just kind of trying to figure out who I was. Didn't really have a gimmick per se. I tried, different roles as a baby face and as a villain, and just a lot of things didn't click, and until one day I was just watching, studying tapes like I always do, and I was a big fan and studied a lot of gorgeous Jimmy Garvin.
Okay.
And saw that he would come out in these, sequin type pants that had suspenders, and it was like, oh, no one's done that in like the last 10, 15 years. And I would ask a couple guys here and there, and they would say, yeah, it's not you, and kind of just sat on a little bit more, and then, one day I was watching a movie, and I don't remember what it was, but, there was a girl who was wearing an outfit, and she like tore her clothes off from it. I was like, a light bulb just went off. What if I did the same thing, but I could tear it off?
Yeah.
Really in good physical shape at that point, and I know a couple people said, hey, it's not going to work, it's not you, but sometimes you just got to take a risk, and got the alphas made, and I just I went out there, and I came back to the curtain, and guys were just like, well, we were wrong. So sometimes you just got to put yourself out there, and that's where the name, the gimmick name that stuck for a lot of years of Simply Ravishing came to be. And it wasn't me trying to be a rip-off of Ravishing Rick Rude. It was a combination of a lot of guys. It was Rick Rude because I studied him. Was a real big fan of his work. It was a combination of him. It was a combination of gorgeous Jimmy Garvin, a little bit of Hollywood John Tatum in there, a little bit of Bill Dundee, and that's what it was. If anything, it was an homage to the Rick Rude character, and it worked for a good amount of years. So that was the first, I guess you want to call it, gimmick that I really had.
But the name, I think most people would jump in right automatically think that you just were trying to do the Rick Rude.
Yeah.
Obviously, the outfit's not too similar.
Right.
Rick had some of the most creative tights that you'd ever see.
Yeah, and he had the most creative robes and tights, and really what it was me trying to take a mixture of different guys and trying to find it within my own personality and things of that nature. And like I said, it worked for a good amount of years. But after a while, it slowly just kind of, it faded off, even though I was still using it. But it really wasn't me anymore until finally I had to kind of just say, no, yeah. I got to go in a different direction because it's not me anymore. I've grown past it and matured past it. So
going from the white meat baby face to the, I guess, the stripper kind of look to now the dipsy face. What's that transition been like, and what made you come up with the Dipsy face? Was it something you just did in the ring, and you're like, people, like everyone makes fun of you, like that's your face?
You know what it is? I mean, just transitioning out of that Simply Ravishing character was really just me finding myself and being me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, done, a lot in this business. I may not have done as much as many others, but I've got a lot of experience, and I've had a lot of heartache and a lot of doors slammed in my face, and really kind of just me being who I am now is just a culmination of that. And the Dipsy face piece really just, I don't even really know how that even came about. I mean, I am very big on facial expressions in the ring, and obviously telling that story and emotion. And, I study a lot of European humor, guys like Mr. Bean, but then I would also study a lot of World of Sport guys, and I'd watch their reactions. And, I think a lot of it just came from sometimes when I would see something so ridiculous in wrestling, I would just make that face, and guys would, find it kind of funny when I would make that. And, the Dipsy piece just kind of came from some friends of mine, where really it was just, we'd all just taken a picture one day, and a couple of my buddies, they dip, they're chewing tobacco, and, we just took a picture, and, a lot of them sometimes would just call me Don for short, for Donovan. And, one of my buddies just goes, oh, it's Dipsy Don. And literally that just over time just became my nickname with everybody, as Dipsy.
Mm-hmm.
And, one day we were at an event, and one of the guys were just, we're just joking around, and they, they're like, oh, that face you make, like your Dipsy face. And that just kind of became its own little thing. So, anytime you can take something and run with it, sit on it, think about it, and if you think it will get over, try to run with it. So I'll run with this and see where it goes, but again, it's just, it's me being me.
Yeah.
I'm what you see, what you get these days. I'm not necessarily a character per se, or have a gimmick per se.
Mm-hmm.
After 15, 16 years, I finally just get to be me, and do it in a way that I'm being real. I don't hide, I don't BS, I don't beat around the bush on things. I'm very respectful, but I'm also very honest sometimes, to a fault.
Yeah.
Not that I try to be mean, but you can't sugarcoat things in any business, whether you're in a real job, in terms of what you're making your money in day to day, or personal. You can't beat around the bush. You got to be real and genuine. If you sugarcoat things, you're not being true to who you are.
Now, something that just came to you over time, like just realizing that, it's just time to be me. It's just time to do what's best for me, because if I don't do it now, I'm never going to get a chance to do it.
Yeah, I think that's what it was for me over the last, couple of years, really kind of getting back into the groove of wrestling again, and just really getting myself back in shape, and getting my confidence back in the ring full time of doing this. I had to take a chance on myself. I don't mean in any way of disrespect or anything towards anyone or anybody, but, you are your own brand. And the only way you're going to be able to get your brand out there is to go out there and go everywhere and do it where you can. And I wanted to say to myself, hey, you've got another run at this, and you're probably at your peak in terms of, actually peak is not the right word, prime. I feel like I'm in my prime. I feel like I'm doing my best work that I ever have. And I owe it to myself to really get out there and give it one last shot, so to speak. I'm no spring chicken by any means, but, I'm not old or crippled, but it was really that. It was just taking a chance on myself and saying, hey, you have a lot to offer, and you have a lot of places that you can go that you can help make an event great by just your match. And it's one by one, picking up opportunity after opportunity and running with it, whether it's in singles or, in tag teams with my partner, Michael Blake. Wherever the opportunity is, we're ready to take it on full speed ahead.
First, I have to mention, you must be a real nice guy, because you keep mentioning his full name, making sure if you mention teams, you don't go just, if I'm tagging or anything, you make sure you mention his full name.
Yeah, he's a straight up genuine dude. We both got into wrestling at the same token. We both met each other within our first year of wrestling, and I consider him one of my best friends. Proud of what he's done outside of wrestling. He's got a beautiful family, and I respect the hell out of him for the work ethic that he puts in. I think that's why he and I always got along very well, and I think that's why he and I work well together, is because we have the same work ethic that a lot of guys don't. We've put in a lot of time, and that's to me, that's where you really get good, is by putting in the work ethic. You could train at a wrestling school for 6 months, get your first booking somewhere, and I don't gotta practice too much. I got my first booking. I'm cool.
Yeah.
It shows in the ring. And that's that same guy that if they keep going on that route 10 years from now, they're still the ones that are going to be happy getting paid $10 and a hot dog.
Just resting on their laurels.
That's it. It's all about work ethic. At the end of the day, one of the reasons why I love training so much still to this day is because it pushes me to stay in shape, but I have a chip on my shoulder in a positive way. I want to say that, hey, there's a guy training right now that is half my age, but I can still either run circles around him or I can go toe to toe, and that pushes me. So it's that work ethic piece that we both have. So.
Do you sometimes, I don't want to say get jealous or necessarily angry, but does it bother you when you see someone that's not really practicing, that's not putting in the time, the dedication that you are, and you just see them just top of every poster, name out there, top of every card, just like, I put in this time, but now you're getting this. Does that kind of get to you? Or you're just like, you know what, good for you, my time will come kind of guy?
A little bit of both. That's where the saltiness may come in a little bit. I do see it. A little salty, yeah, because I know I could, A, make that guy look better than what he really is, or B, I can run circles around him. But at the end of the day, my belief is that you get what you pay for. Yeah, they may be at the top of the card, but are they delivering results? Are they putting butts in seats? Are they, just because they're in a main event, are they performing at a main event level? And by no means am I saying I'm main event level. I mean, I choose to be humble but hungry.
Which is the best combination?
I think at the end of the day, anyone could be put in a main event, but it's also how the promoter books that person and makes them look. But if they go in the ring after all that hype and they don't deliver, they're going to fall flat on their face eventually. And I'm always a belief that the cream rises to the top. I don't have to go and say, hey, book me in a main event or anything like that. If you're giving me an opportunity, then I'm going to go out there, I'm going to show you what I can deliver and what I can do. And we'll see where we want to go from there. I'm all about just taking advantage of an opportunity. If someone wants to book someone on every one of their promotions and wants to make them a main event person, kudos to them. But there's only so long that's going to run them if they're just doing the same thing night after night and they haven't progressed because they aren't continually training to better themselves. And you can never stop learning. There's so many different things to learn about this sport that I never stop learning. I'm learning a lot more now than I probably thought I ever would, on so many different levels. So I keep, it's like it's food for the brain. I keep eating every day.
I'm sure with everything you study, you learn that something.
Yeah, I watch same matches over and over, and sometimes I find something new out of it that I never thought I would ever see. And I just be able to look at it from a different perspective, so learn something.
Is Michael your favorite road partner? Or is he not really the car guy you want to be in the car with? There's other guys who are like, that's the best road trip guy.
No, he's a good road trip guy. It's weird. We actually have very opposite personalities, but we do have a lot of similarities that we can talk about. But in terms of certain ways we look at things in life or different things, we have opposite personalities and opposite views on different things. But a lot of things we do click on. But good road partner. A lot of times I'm more the guy that likes to just ride by myself. Only just because I like to create in my own head. while I'm driving.
So you like to lay out your match as you're on the road to it? Or
Yeah.
just think of just everything?
Think of ideas, everything. You know, I consistently cut promos when I'm in the car, just trying out different ideas, wording, phrases, taking from lyrics, things of that nature. Always trying to create. But when I'm in the car with anybody, I'm going to make it a fun time. So I know a lot of people don't quote unquote pull ribs these days, but I like doing those every now and then, just having some fun.
You got to keep it light in such a painful industry, to say the.
Yeah, and not too painful. I like lighthearted ribs, not nothing malicious.
No, I mean just the ring work overall painful. Yeah, because when you're in the car with the boys, you just want to relax and have fun. Of course,
yeah. The road trips are the best part though, because it's what can go wrong, or what can happen, and that's where I think a lot of fun stories come from. Is what happens when you're on the road traveling and you're going from town to town. That's the fun stuff.
Now, do you have a road trip story where just everything went wrong? Just whether it's a navigation, the one guy kept snoring, just.
Actually, to be honest, no. I've actually, all of the road trips that I've fortunate enough to have been on, I've never really had a flat tire or the car start steaming from the hood or anything like that.
So I'm knock on wood for you.
Please, yeah, I'll knock on wood for it myself. But I've been fortunate enough to really not have those. I think I think the only real road trip that I ever had that wasn't bad from a road trip type piece, but it was something that is called ghost booking.
Okay.
Was booked on a show back in 2004 with a couple of guys, and it was in Virginia. And we got the address and everything. We were, told by email, hey, so of course I go on to MapQuest online. I print out like my 9 pages worth of directions. And we're all in the car, man. We get there, and there is no show. Not even an ounce of anyone knowing that there was a show taking place. So we were ghost booked.